G'day guys, Nick here. Just a quick update before you watch this video. Just wanted to let you know that this was recorded before Christmas last year, so some of the things we're referring to might not make any sense. Just letting you know, I am back now. I've started making new videos for the year. I'm going to start using a camera, so you guys can actually see us talking, which is going to be awesome. But for the time being, enjoy our wish list of things we want to see in X-Wing.
Greetings all, this is Justin.
And this is Harry Nick. How you doing, dude?
I'm doing well.
Excellent.
So, it's nearly Christmas.
It's nearly Christmas. And Justin, we have a wish list of our own.
We do.
Not just you guys. We did a few videos just the other days about great ships to buy in for new players and that kind of stuff. But I have a request for FFG. Dear FFG, these are some ships that we'd love to see. Maybe at Christmas you can reveal that you're making these ships and make all our dreams come true. Now, I will say I don't like to make a lot of these sort of top 5, top 10 things I wish for in X-Wing because it doesn't really have that much subject matter. And more to the point, I think it's most important that whatever ships FFG make, it's whatever best for the meta at that time. Yeah. And it's very easy to say, oh, we need the Assault Gunboat, we need the Assault Gunboat, but the concept they may have worked on for the Assault Gunboat may not have been good for, like, the past year, before the Assault Gunboat came out. Perhaps they just tested the waters and make sure, okay, this is the environment we want the Assault Gunboat in now. And for that point, these ships I'm talking about, I would love it if they announced all of these tomorrow. But at the same time, I understand there's probably a good reason that they haven't. Yeah. A few of these are just sort of very niche things that me and Justin like. This is very much our own opinion. And even like the really good ones, which I expect to be in the game at some point. I'm not going to say if they're not announced tomorrow, this is just rubbish and they don't know what they're doing. Because it's about what's best for the game. Yeah.
Like, these realistically, like, 2... Maybe 3 years, I could probably wait. But this is Christmas and we want them now.
That's exactly right. This is our wish list of ships we want to see in X-Wing. And that's also kind of ambiguous because Justin's hyped for ships that I'm not hyped for. I'm hyped for some ships that Justin doesn't seem to be too keen on. But whatever, these are ships that would be exciting for the game. Why don't you start with number 1, Justin?
And we'll start with the Belobub 22 Starfighter.
Belobub or Belbalub? Belbalub? Yes, this is General Grievous' personal ship. And look, in terms of what it offers to the game, shrug. But it looks awesome.
Idea, but it is,
It looks awesome. It looks like a really sick hot-rodded car.
Yeah, someone that's just gone, you know what it needs? Bigger engines.
That's right, that's right. And I think you and I can agree on this, Justin. We're not really fans of the prequels. It's pretty fair to say.
What? When did that happen?
Oh, yes, the sarcasm in your voice is so subtle. But look, that doesn't... I'm not saying people that like prequels are wrong or anything, but I think overall they're not movies that we enjoy, but aesthetically there are a lot of great things from the prequels, and some of the ship designs, this in particular, is one.
What I do want to say, though, is the Clone Wars TV show.
Yes.
That is amazing. Everyone needs to watch that.
Absolutely. And actually that shows off a lot of really cool ships, a few of which we're going to talk about in a second.
Indeed.
But the Belbalub is just a really, really cool looking ship. It looks like it's for sort of high-ranking personnel. It's very much a luxury personal space fighter.
And interestingly enough, it's called the Soulless One, which is amazing name.
Well, Grievous's ship's called the Soulless One, which is a great title for a ship.
Yeah, but we're getting a Obi-Wan movie eventually coming out.
Well, they haven't officially announced it, but there's a very good chance of that.
Yeah.
And we know that Obi-Wan stole the Soulless One at the end of episode 3.
Yeah, so technically
it might appear in another movie.
Yeah.
Maybe, probably not. Fingers crossed, Justin really hopes.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm a fan of the CIS.
Yes, absolutely.
And maybe people can work that out through some of the ships that we talk about later.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not about what functions in the game. It's about having a really cool mini and a card that says Soulless One on it. Yeah. That's what it boils down to.
That's literally it, isn't it?
But at the end of the day, that's what this video is about. This video is for fun. This is a Christmas time with Atchie and Justin video. Alright, let's move on to the next one. Number 2, the NovaSword Space Superiority Fighter. I mean, I gotta be honest, the name alone made me want to look at this one.
And I was the one that pointed it out to Nick, and he's just like, I've never heard of this, but the name makes me want to look at this.
Well, I've never watched the old Clone Wars show. There was a cartoon before there was a CG animated show.
Yeah.
And that includes this ship and the character that flies it, which we'll get onto a second. But first we'll talk about the ship. Because it was made by a company called SubPro. And we were just looking through these Wikipedia articles, like deciding what to do in this video. And we just laughed as soon as we saw that.
Yeah.
Because the name just sounds like you're already giving up with your company name.
You're like, we're not the best pro, we're sub-pro.
And it was a direct reaction to the Z95. Yeah. And apparently one of the reasons the Republic didn't use it is because of the name Sub-Pro. Which is just hilarious to think about.
Great.
It's a pretty decent looking ship. I think the nose looks a bit doofy. But certainly certain colour schemes and stuff. There's a great image here of a blue one with spikes on the back of it, which is really cool. And the character that flew it. Justin, you know more about this than me. Why don't you talk about this?
I do. His name is Dirge. He was a bounty hunter, and he went insane, basically.
Yeah.
He was ridiculously old, about 2,000 years old, apparently, give or take.
Just a couple hundred years older than Yoda. Who cares?
Yeah. And the only reason he died was because Anakin force pushed him into a sun.
Can you please repeat that last sentence?
Force pushed him into a sun.
So he had several near-death experiences where he just rebuilt his body.
Yeah, people would cut his limbs off with lightsabers, and then the limb would just come back and reattach, or he'd grow a new one, and like,
it took Anakin friggin' Skywalker to push him into a star to kill him.
And even then, apparently there was like a Dirge 2.0.
Oh, really?
Yeah, set like after Greater EU.
Oh.
And like they found like microscopic bits of DNA or something, and they rebuilt him, but he wasn't quite as good.
Oh, I mean, how can you get better? Yeah. I mean, you can't go higher than perfect, Justin. Yeah. And the NovaSword looks like a cool ship. It's a hot-rodded Z95. It looks a bit generic-y, sort of space fighter-y kind of thing. But I love the history behind it. I like what that could represent in the game. And I like the idea that just pirates take it because the Republic didn't want it. Yeah. So they have like this kind of better Z95 that's just a bit better but made by SubPro.
Yeah. Which therefore makes it a little bit worse.
Alright, let's move on. Let's talk about TIE fighters. Yeah. Particularly the Mining Guild TIEs, but we also have a bit of a chat about the X-TIE Uglies. Now, we're on the fence about this. Yeah. We're not too sure. I'm not a fan of the Uglies. I'm a big fan of the Mining Guild TIEs. I think there's a very high likelihood the Mining Guild TIEs will get in because they appear in Rebels.
Yeah, that's true.
And they'd be a great sort of staple scum ship. I picture the Mining Guild TIE as like a modified TIE fighter. Probably not a TIE fighter, probably like an MG TIE as its ship name.
Okay.
And maybe a slightly worse dial, but it has like illicit slots or something like that. Yeah. A more efficient, low-costed thing, like better than Z95 is what I'm thinking.
Would you say that it would maybe go Imperial and Scum? Or would it just be Scum?
Possibly. That's an interesting idea. But, it was sold to the Mining Guild, and the Mining Guild modified it. So they really are just TIE fighters from that point of view. See, it'd be interesting to see how it's implemented. I think there's a very good chance it'll get into the game simply because it's a ship that a lot of people know about and talk about. It's in Rebels. I'd be surprised if it wasn't put in at some stage. It's just a case of when. Now the Uglies.
They're a bit harder, but
yeah,
so much more ability to upgrade and
I can hear the hype in your voice, Justin. It's honestly not something I'm so keen on, but I will admit there's some interesting design space with the Uglies because you can give it the ability to upgrade with X-Wing and TIE Fighter specific upgrade cards.
Or Y-Wings.
Or Y-Wings, yes.
Yeah.
It could basically say, I get all the benefits of these different ships, and you just slap on weird upgrades and go.
And see how it goes.
Which kind of feels really scummy. Lots of different options, but not a lot of efficiency.
It feels scummy, but most importantly to me, it feels very X-Wing.
Yes.
Or Star Wars, I should say, more importantly. In the idea of, there were so many ships.
Yeah.
That eventually, like, random people would just be like, oh, there's a cockpit for something. There's a couple of wings. If I just slap them together,
Yeah.
I might be able to fly somewhere.
And that's one of the things which makes me go, oh yeah. Because you know what they did with those old Star Wars movies? They got model kits and they slapped them together. You know how they got the surface of the Death Star? They just cracked open all these model kits and glued stuff on a surface. And it feels like it's very much in keeping with that kind of mentality. And one more thing which I like about the Uglies is the fact that it's keeping X-Wings and TIE Fighters relevant. It's keeping them in the game. My attitude is you just can't have enough X-Wing and TIE Fighters in this game. People will not get bored of them. They are iconic. And putting something on the Scum faction, which kind of represents both, but in its own unique way, makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And I like that idea. I'm not keen on the Uglies overall. Like, Justin's more hyped than I am.
There's so many different artworks. There's a great one from the Poe Dameron comics. You actually see a whole bunch of the different Uglies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I got to look
some of them are amazing.
Oh, that sounds...
Some of them just should not exist as well.
I might put some pictures up here. Yeah. I have a feeling I'm not going to monetize this video because I'm going to want to put a lot of different pictures up on here. But that's okay. It's a bit more of a fun video. Yeah, the Uglies, I think, could have interesting design space. For me, it's the fact that so many of them are ugly. Let's not beat around the bush. And the fact that it might be very difficult to implement. But if it's done right, maybe. Also, absolutely Mining Guild ties. Maybe Uglies if it's done well. I don't know.
Yeah,
The Mining Guild ties, I feel like, have clear implementation in the game already. Okay, and the next one I want to talk about is the N1 Starfighter. A Clone Wars era ship.
Yep.
And quite a cool one.
Oh, no, sorry, I'm losing all my words because it just looks pretty.
It does. What I love about the design of this ship is you look at the stuff from X-Wing during the Galactic Civil War and it's all rugged and beaten up. The N1 Starfighter is like a personal police force of a Royal Guard.
Yeah.
That's why it looks so sleek and chrome and all that kind of stuff. It's one of my favourite things from Episode 1. There's not a great deal of things I love from Episode 1, but the N1 Starfighter is really, really cool. And more to the point, we've actually seen this ship get flown in the Galactic Civil War era, sort of post Return of the Jedi. If you guys haven't read this yet, there's a comic called Shattered Empire by Marvel. And it's about Shara Bay, about her missions that she takes on just after Return of the Jedi. And Shara Bay, if you guys don't know, is Poe Dameron's mother. And in one of the missions, she goes to Theed with Princess Leia, and they need to defend the planet from a blockade of Star Destroyers, which is trying to destroy the planet. So the three of them, as in Shara Bay, Princess Leia, and the Queen, who I've forgotten who she was, but they all fly up as an attempt to kind of stall the Star Destroyers before the Rebel fleet arrives. So, I mean, more to the point, we'll have an awesome ship, but we could also have a Princess Leia pilot card.
That would be interesting.
It would be very interesting, especially considering her crew card is just not that relevant, unfortunately. And this is an interesting ship. It kind of, to me, feels like a bit more of a usable headhunter with an astromech. It would have a system slot to represent the autopilot. Maybe have like an autopilot as like its unique thing. Because that was a big deal in how it worked. Basically, the pilots that flew it just put on autopilot and let the ship do itself because they weren't war-hardened veterans. They were the local police force that flew these kind of things.
Well, it was great. There was the yellow version, but then there were also like these amazing like blue versions of the N1 Starfighter. I think that was actually the N2 possibly.
Oh, okay. So there's design space to move into that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so
then.
Different colours and things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they were cool.
But having said that, I just love that sleek yellow look. It looks a bit like a Lamborghini with that kind of colour scheme, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just a really cool thing. Again, it's got those big, disgusting engines on it, just like General Grievous's Solus one.
Yeah.
And it's just cool ship design. I really like the M1 Starfighter. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Gauntlet fighter.
This is something both of us want.
Yeah,
like,
this
is
it's
so good.
It's a big Protectorate Starfighter. Let's not beat around the bush.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons it might not be in the game right now is because the design space is hard to work with. Plus the IG-2000, or rather the Aggressor, is already in the game. That covers a very similar role. It's a big ship with 3 red dice, 3 agility, which is a great dogfighter. And that's kind of what the Gauntlet fighter is trying to do as well, I feel.
But at the same time, it was on both three factions?
It could be. It could be. We've talked about this before as well. It could. It has been represented in the Rebels show as being flown by Gar Saxon and his minions for the Empire. Yep. It's been flown by Ezra Bridger. Ezra Bridger actually takes the Night Brother from Maul. And of course Maul flies it, and Maul is the Scum guy. And of course the Mandalorian, so it would go perfectly on the Scum faction as well. Yeah. You could even make the argument that the Mandalorians could fly on the Rebel faction because of their alignment in the show. I don't think they should go there.
No.
I think it's cleaner if they just keep them Scum.
Yeah.
But definitely, like, if they could do like 3 generics and 3 named pilots across all 3 factions,
that'd be so good.
Ezra Bridger, Gar Saxon, and Darth Maul, and 3 generics that just sit a bit lower but still have APTs. I can imagine that being good. It would be like the Protectorate Starfighter pack, where you don't get many upgrades, but you get a lot of pilots. And having a ship that could be a lot of fun in all 3 factions and potentially give interesting design space to all 3 factions will be a good seller.
Yeah.
I mean, apart from anything else, FFG, you should make ships that sell well.
I've just realised that if we also have the Protectorate Starfighter and with Ezra on that, like, you could then have...
You could argue the point that their Protectorate Starfighters can be flown on the Rebel faction.
Yeah.
Perhaps it would allow certain... I don't think all Scum ships. I think that'd be a bad move.
Oh, no.
Because then you got Ezra Dengar on Rebels.
But, like, Ezra, and then you put Maul on the field somehow as well.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of cool... There's a lot of cool stuff we could be doing with the Gauntlet fighter. I think without a doubt it must be something that FFG are looking at. I'm just crossing my fingers every single time they announce a wave. It came into the show just before the Wave 11 announcement, and I was so sad it wasn't in Wave 11. A further 2 waves have come and gone. We didn't get the Gauntlet fighter, but maybe the next one.
Well, I mean, 12 is a very small... Or, wait, was it 12 or 13?
12-13 was the combined wave, quote unquote.
So 13's only got 2 ships.
It didn't even have any Scum ships either.
So, technically, fingers crossed.
Look, Scum have taken a bit of a backseat over the last few waves. The only really thing that's significant is the Skirg bomber. And even within that wave, there was the Rebel Nim and there was other stuff. So Rebels were definitely the most benefiting from that wave. It shows in the meta. So I think there's an argument to be made that you could put another large base Scum ship that has a bit of explosive potential back in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need another big Scum ship, but I really need a Gauntlet fighter at the end of the day.
I just want, a nice FFG model that I can just stick somewhere and just be like...
Just put some Protectorate Starfighters around it going, look at my Mandalorian squad, look how cool they look. Let's move on, Justin, because we have something...
the thing that you want most.
Oh, this is the thing that I want most for sure. We have one more after this, which is going to be the thing Justin wants most. But this is the last chance. A Sentinel-class Imperial shuttle that was stolen by Hondo Ohnaka. I mean, at the very least, I think we can all agree that Hondo Ohnaka needs to be an X-Wing somehow. Yeah. He's one of the coolest characters in both Clone Wars and Rebels. Just to give you guys some background, this guy took on Darth Maul and his brother and beat him.
I forgot that.
He took on...
I seriously forgot.
He took on Maul and Savage and beat him. Now, granted, he had help from Anakin and Obi-Wan, but he wounded them and they had to escape the planet. He captured Count Dooku.
Yeah.
And he's also the best comic relief Star Wars will ever see. Forget Chewbacca, forget Jar Jar, I wish I could. Hondo Ohnaka is one of the coolest, funniest characters.
Yeah.
And also, another cool thing about Hondo Ohnaka, he's voiced by Jim Cummings, the voice of Winnie the Pooh.
But now all I can see is like, Hondo Ohnaka. Ooh, I must get some honey.
Let's put Dirge to the side. Let's talk about Hondo for a moment.
Yeah.
He's one of my favourite characters, and he's just cool. There's nobody I've met that know of Hondo and don't like him.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And let's talk about the actual ship, because that's actually what we're talking about here. But this Sentinel-class shuttle, a massive, bulbous Imperial shuttle with a big pirate flag paint on the side. Oh, I love that idea.
Not only that, the name,
the last chance. Because he stole it from an Imperial facility that was about to get blown up.
Yeah.
And he said to his rebel friends, "Goodbye, my friends." after, leaving them for dead.
Yeah, he's just like, well...
He's always so upbeat about...
It's like, I've shown you here, you guys might die, but, I'm off.
Yeah,
Bye.
he's so happy about betrayal. He's such a cool character. And I just love the idea of this being on the battlefield on a scum squad. This big, disgusting-looking shuttle with a pirate flag behind it. It's so scum. It's funny, but it's not corny, if that makes any sense. It's very much in keeping about what the scum faction's trying to do. It's, I've stolen your thing, here, deal with it. It's like the obnoxiousness of having Sabine's tie times 10.
Yeah.
It's like, we've stolen this massive Imperial thing and it's just floating on the battlefield in the middle of a dogfight. I love that idea so much. Plus, apart from anything else, this would be a great platform for Jabba the Hutt. Yeah. If it has 2 crew in an illicit slot. I can see that working very well.
Yeah.
Jabba has no good options at this point in time.
No. You could also maybe give coordinate actions.
Yeah, it depends on how we do it. I mean, it's essentially a Lambda-class shuttle without the crew, but the cargo instead. And I've talked about this before. Maybe you could give it a Sentinel-class title to your Lambda-class to turn it into a cargo variant. Which means the last chance could be either be a Lambda or a Sentinel, or on the Imperial faction, you have a fix for the Lambda-class shuttle. And suddenly it has renewed relevancy.
Yeah.
It's almost like giving a fix to another ship, which is really cool. It just seems really doable. I think there's a lot of really good design space we could be looking at with this ship. And yeah, I love Hondo Ohnaka. I want him in the game. I want this ship in the game. It would be just so much fun.
And finally, the one we've all been waiting for.
Well, the one you've been waiting for.
I have. The Droid Tri-Fighter.
Yeah, this is a cool ship. And I think one of the big things you want... You love the Confederacy. You'd love to see it in the game.
Yeah.
And this is one of those ships where I go, you know what? Even if the Confederacy isn't in the game, I think this would be cool.
Yeah. Well, it even says here in a little bit of the Wikipedia that 5 years after the Clone Wars, Tri-Fighters could still be seen harassing the Galactic Empire, led by some former Republic intelligence.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Like, my first bet would be is if this was put in the game, it would be on the Scum faction.
Yeah.
But could it be Rebel? I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels very Imperial to me. If with existing factions, it feels Imperial. Probably more alignment makes more sense with Scum.
Well, see, in terms of what's out there right now, technically it should be Scum Rebel. The CIS should be more Scum Rebel because they were against the Republic and the Republic were the Empire. But at the same time...
Yeah, it's very ambiguous.
Yeah. I think realistically what needs to happen is you need to have Act 2.
Act 2
of X-Wing and you go back to the Clone Wars or something like that. Personally, that's the only way I can see...
Well, look, this is another discussion for another day. Yeah. And just so you guys know, we are going to make a video discussing the pros and cons of the first era of Star Wars, as in the prequels, putting them into the game, giving them their own factions. It's something we'll talk about in another video, but it's a very interesting discussion we should have. And I'm glad we're talking about this now, because it's a great way to introduce that. And look, end of the day, the ship looks awesome. Yeah. And it will really boil down, if FFG don't go that route of giving us first era factions, how they'd implement it and how they'd do it. And I have to say, as someone who's not a big fan of the prequels, I like this ship a lot. It's really cool. Plus, it is a droid. It is a droid. And that's interesting. How are they going to implement that into X-Wing?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, do you still have pilot cards? Do you have modification? Or is there like a pilot AI slot as an upgrade? Yeah. It only has one card. It is this droid. And like you put in the AI slot. It changes the pilot skill to something and does something else, something like that. And that means that AIs can be put into multiple ships. Again, that's design space if they want to have multiple ships that function like this. But there's no doubt that it's very different. It's not just like having a pilot in it.
Well, see, one way I was thinking about it was that you'd have swarms. So, like, you'd have, for a certain amount of points...
Yes.
It's 3 Droid Tri-Fighters.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I see what you mean.
And then, if it gets damaged, it then goes down to 2 Droid Tri-Fighters.
Okay. So this feels a lot like Legion. In other words, you're hitting the squad and removing the amount of damage output they can do, in other words. Yeah.
Like that could work. Again,
it may be too complex for X-Wing.
Yeah, this is something I'm working on. I have spent a fair amount of time writing all this stuff out, trying to find all the different chips from the CIS.
Again, we'll talk about that more in the next video, for sure. I think, in my opinion, the Tri-Fighter makes sense as a single, but like the Vultures you put in squads and that kind of stuff. Because the Tri-Fighters definitely function like a big, heavy-hitting ships. It essentially has like a rapid-fire minigun on the front of it. Yeah, just very powerful concussion missiles, buzz droids. I do not want buzz droids in X-Wing. I think they're one of the dumbest things from Episode 3. But nonetheless, it has a missile slot. Yeah, you're going, I don't want that.
Oh, they were bad.
Yeah, it's one of those things. If you guys haven't seen Episode 3, essentially it's a missile that flew past Anakin Skywalker to get in front of him, exploded, then little droids flew onto his ship and started dismantling it. When everyone in the audience was just screaming, why wasn't it just filled with explosives and just hit the ship directly?
Because you need the story to continue.
Oh, no, we needed R2 to be the hero, apparently. I'm not a fan. Thematically, I'm not a fan of buzz droids. But whatever. The ship overall is really, really cool. And it looks awesome. It's got red eyes and stuff.
Yeah, he was an angry droid.
Very angry droid. Very angry starfighter. And a very cool design. I think, again, a lot of that Clone Wars era stuff has a lot of cool design. And there's definitely a lot that can be looked at, regardless of whether or not we get factions. And the fact of the matter is that is already Clone Wars era stuff in the game. We already have the Arc 170. We already have... help me out here, Justin.
The Gauntlet-class cruiser. We have the Shadowcaster.
But it's sort of a Clone Wars.
Shadowcasters, technically... Yeah, Asterix.
Oh, the Sheathipede. The Phantom 2. Yes, absolutely. So we have Clone Wars era ships already in the game, and I think this would be one of the better ones that could be implemented. Anyway, guys, that was our wish list for Christmas 2017 in the world of X-Wing. I hope you enjoyed it. For the time being, like and subscribe, like our Facebook page, and we will catch you later.